Ben Jacobs with you, and today we're delving into the business of sport, and I'm delighted to be joined by Brighton CEO Paul Barber. Paul, Happy New Year.
Same to you.
Well, let's start with the most important thing, a personal accolade. Many congratulations on your OBE. Tell us how it came about, and were you sworn to secrecy?
Yes, sworn to secrecy for some weeks. I'm obviously very honoured and humbled to receive an individual award in what is a team sport. So a lot of other people deserve a lot of credit for whoever made the decision to give me an award. Huge amount of work has been done by a lot of people over the various football organisations I've worked in. So I'm very humbled, and obviously, from a family and personal point of view, delighted as well.
And of course, a lot of hard work has gone into Brighton's business model, success on the field at the moment, and you've been there since 2012. How's the club changed in the last 10 years or so since you first took on the role?
Well, from the start, from the owner downwards, we've had a very clear vision of what we wanted to achieve, and getting to the Premier League was an important part of our initial vision. Staying in the Premier League was part of the updated vision, and now in the current iteration, we're challenging as hard as we can to be a regular top 10 club in the Premier League, and that's a hard thing to pull off when you've got a lot of other clubs around you who've got similar ambitions, a lot of much bigger clubs, more established clubs at this level. So we've worked very hard on making sure we've got the right infrastructure in place, the right people in place, the right way of thinking in place, and that's been probably the hardest part of the last 10 years is bringing all those things together to ensure that the team, the players on the pitch, have got the best possible chance of winning football matches. And that's really what my job and everyone around me's job is, to give those guys and our women's team, who are also doing well in the Women's Super League, the best possible chance of winning football matches.
And as you say, there are bigger clubs with bigger budgets and higher wage bills. And it's a balance, I suppose, isn't it, between wanting to compete and obviously succeed and finish as high as you can, but not breaking the books or going against your business model in order to do so.
Yes, we have a very strict business plan and model in terms of the way we want to work. We have to be smarter. We have to fish in ponds that other clubs tend not even to look in, rather than fish in. So that's been part of our policy and our philosophy all the way along. We try and buy players younger. We try and use our own coaching skills and expertise to develop them. If that means that they make it into our first team and progress even further, that's fantastic. If it means we sell them to other clubs along the way, that also helps to bring in the income that then enables to complete the cycle. And really what we're looking at is trying to reduce the amount of money we spend on transfer fees and develop our own talent and actually profit from transfer fees by selling those players at the right time, because they've all got big ambitions to play at the highest possible level, and we understand that.
And are there certain goals on the business and financial side? Nobody expects a football club to share where they want to finish as far as a football aim. But if we look at a financial aim, Wolves, for example, said they will do their books and budget based upon a 10th place finish, and anything above that helps them financially, and anything below that, they have to act accordingly in order to progress. Is that true of Brighton as well, that if you're mid-table, and we're not talking about a football aim, because as I say, mid-table mediocrity isn't necessarily something fans want to hear, but from a budgetary point of view, is 10th place or better in keeping with progress?
Well, from a financial point of view, we're much more conservative than that, because we know how difficult the Premier League is, and we know how small margins can be the difference between success and failure. So we're much more conservative than planning to finish 10th financially. But having said that, we know how valuable each place is in the Premier League. We know how valuable progression in the Cups is. We know how valuable getting our player trading right is. So it's a combination of different things, working with our commercial team as well to maximise the increased interest in our club and the profile that we have. It's a combination of making sure we maximise our revenue streams and minimise our cost base wherever we can, and try and be as efficient as we can in everything that we do. And if that ultimately comes together, as it did last season, and we finish in 9th position or up 10th and above, then that is a very successful financial year for us. But that doesn't mean to say our football ambition stops there. Ultimately, we would love to be playing in European competition. We'd love to be the group of directors and coaches and staff that secured the first silverware for the club. All those things are really, really important to us. But this is a long-term project. It's not something we expect to get immediate results from or immediate success from.
If you do get success too soon and end up in Europe, it will come with added costs. We saw that when Leicester won the Premier League, a phenomenal fairy tale, but with it comes new contracts, higher wage bills, and an urgency to spend quicker than expected. So should Brighton qualify for Europe, how does that change your business model?
I'd like to think it wouldn't. I mean, we know that it would bring extra demands on us, but we also know that it would be an exceptional achievement and not something necessarily that we could count on every year. So we would certainly maintain our model. We would certainly maintain our cost structures. Fortunately, we've got a lot of experience in the club now from myself, from our technical director, David Weir, head coach, Roberto De Zerbi. We've all been involved, either playing, coaching or administrating football in Europe with different clubs. So there is experience in the club for that eventuality. If it happens, it would be a fantastic thing. We would embrace it. We would look forward to it. We would manage it. But we also know it would come with other challenges. And of course, as soon as you are successful, whether that's like last year for us finishing ninth or at some point in the future winning a trophy or qualifying for Europe, then the expectations go up again. And these are the things you have to manage when you're developing a football club and building a football club. The better you do, the greater the expectations, the higher the demands, the greater the pressures. Increased costs are a part of that, and managing them is a very, very big part of the process.
And as you alluded to before, if you don't make European football, or even if potentially you do, some of these young players are going to be in demand. How, as a football club, do you balance, especially under still a relatively new manager, the desire of the player, perhaps the need of the football club to cash in, and that overarching philosophy of wanting to progress on the field? And your best possible chance, presumably, of doing that is keeping your best players.
Yeah, we always want to keep the best possible squad together for as long as we can, but we also have to be realistic that players will have ambitions. They'll want to play at the highest level. And in those situations, it's up to us then from a business point of view to maximise the value of those players. But we're realistic and we understand that that's part of the cycle that we work in as a club. And therefore, it's up to us, it's incumbent on us to make sure we've got a plan to cover all of those eventualities. That means bringing in players to replace players well before we actually need to do that. And we're also blessed in the sense that our owner doesn't put us under pressure to sell players. We're very comfortable with our financial model. We're very comfortable with our squad. We're not under any pressure to sell any players at any time. So if we do so, it will be because it's right for us and it's right for the player. And we've realised the value that we think is the best we can at that particular point.
Is the sale of Marc Cucurella, for example, a good case study of smart business from your perspective? You got a very competitive fee, and then in comes Estepinian, who's hit the ground running as a like-for-like replacement.
It's a good example of where you have to sometimes match a player's ambitions with your own business needs and good timing. And, you know, from our point of view, Marc had a fantastic season with us. He was in high demand, not just from Chelsea, who ultimately bought him, but other clubs as well. And that enabled us to realise, you know, a good transfer fee for him. And you know, that's one of the most important parts of our model is knowing when to sell, and also making sure that we've got that plan in place to replace the player that's outgoing, so that there is no diminution to the coach's ability to win football matches. And that's a trick. That's an important part of what we do. We can't get it right every time. There's always going to be moments and situations when that doesn't quite work to everyone's advantage, ours in this case. But Marc's sale did. And, you know, it's good to see him playing regularly for Chelsea and playing in the Champions League and playing, you know, a good football. But, you know, for us, Purvis has come in and done exceptionally well as well. So everybody in that situation seems to have benefited.
When you get a healthy sale like that, and there's been a number of them for Brighton and Hove Albion, does that affect how you now look at January should an offer come in for Alexis Mac Allister or Moses Caicedo?
We always try and avoid doing business of any kind, outgoing or incoming, in January. I think there's a couple of reasons for that. First of all, it tends to be more of a seller's market. Although, of course, the problem with that is if you sell and you need to replace, you then go into the buyer's market, which is a more difficult place to be. So from our point of view, we would rather do our business in the summer. We would rather keep our squad stable during the winter window. And particularly at this stage of the season where, we've had a very good start again to the Premier League season. We're not quite halfway through it yet. And if we can retain all of our key players during January, then that would certainly be our aim.
Are you braced, though, for offers? Because Alexis is now a World Cup winner and Moises, really, even dating back to last summer, has been in demand.
The more successful you are, the greater the profile you have, the more interest there is in the players that are doing well as part of that. And so, again, we're very realistic that we're going to have interest in Alexis, we're going to have interest in Moises, we're going to have interest in Rob Sanchez. And, we had 8 players at the World Cup, more than at any other time in the club's history combined. So, this has been an exceptional period for us. We know that our players are being looked at. We know the players that we're looking at to bring into the club are being looked at, because people now are even more aware of the recruitment team's success in recent years. But it doesn't change anything. If it's right for us, we would do something. If it isn't right for us, and if it isn't right for our player, then we certainly wouldn't. So, no plans to do anything in this winter window of any note. But of course, you can never say never about anything in this business.
On Moises specifically, have any offers come in to date?
No, I'm pleased they haven't.
So anything that suggests Liverpool have made not 1 but 2 bids, or Chelsea might be circling, is premature?
Maybe they haven't got my email address because I haven't received it.
What does it feel like, and how proud are you as a football club and an individual to have a World Cup winner at Brighton and Hove Albion from the 2022 tournament?
It's really special, and it's something that everybody in the club feels very proud of. I spoke to Alexis for the first time in person since his World Cup win, and he's still beaming with pride. And you can see everybody on our team playing here tonight was the same, and still talking to him about his experiences and what it was like to win a World Cup. I mean, it doesn't matter whether you're a small kid playing football for your school, or an adult playing amateur football, or a professional footballer. Winning the World Cup is the pinnacle of playing the game, and to have achieved that at 23 years of age is something very, very special. So we're proud of Alexis. I know that his family are very proud of him, and I think for him himself, it's still sinking in. He should enjoy every second of it, because it's a really special achievement.
And the club can be very calm about his future because he's contracted in the long term. And as I understand it, you can even extend that contract at the club end by an additional year.
Yeah, we worked hard before the World Cup to agree a new contract with Alexis. We worked with his father, with his agent, to come up with a deal that suited everybody. And we're glad that we did that, not just because Alexis ended up winning the World Cup, but we wanted him settled to give himself the best chance of having a great World Cup on a personal level as well as a team level, and also to give him that sort of comfort going into the rest of the season with us, that he had a long-term future plan all mapped out for him. What will happen this window, next window, the window after, none of us can predict, but Alexis is delighted to be back. We're delighted to have him back, and we're looking forward to seeing more football from him in the second half of the season.
And give me some insight into how you formulate a fee. For example, when Graham Potter was still at Brighton, he half joked that if a bid came in for, at the time it was quoted as 42 million, it would only buy Moses Caicedo's boots, and that the player might be worth upwards of 70, 80, 90 million. How do you establish what you think is fair or better than market value?
I think footballers, rightly or wrongly, are like any other commodity, in the sense that the market determines the price. If they've got a rare talent, if they're under a long contract, if they're in high demand because there aren't other players like them in the position that they play and a club needs them, then the price can be whatever it needs to be. When it comes to a player who's just won a World Cup, or a player that's competing in the World Cup, of course their value perhaps goes up even further, because they've been able to show that they can compete and perform at the highest level. So we don't really go into negotiation with a set figure in mind, because the market in many ways determines where that position is and starts, and where it ultimately ends up in terms of numbers. But of course we invest a lot in players. There's a transfer fee, there's wages, there's the coaching and development that we've put in place for them. All those things, agents' fees, they're all part of the mix that determines ultimately what the price is. And of course, the market, as I say, is the ultimate determiner of whatever price we can sell for, or ultimately have to buy for.
And do you still agree with Graham Potter that 42 million would only get Caicedo's boots?
I'm not sure that it would include the boots now, maybe just the laces. But joking aside, I think every player ultimately, the value is determined by the market. And Graham's comments were, part in jest, but part serious, because he has been an exceptional player for us since he came into the Premier League, developing all the time. A young man, great attitude, fantastic work ethic, very, very nice human being off the pitch. So all those things contribute to the value of a footballer when it comes to that moment.
I know you've developed a strong professional and personal relationship with Chelsea's new ownership group. What do you make of their project and ambition?
Well, like any football club, expectations on a club like Chelsea are going to be high, and on new owners who've got big ambitions, that adds to that profile, adds to that pressure. I know that Todd and his group have spent a lot of money in buying the club and in improving the squad, in securing Graham's services, and it does take a while for all of those things that they're trying to bring together to have the same effect that they hope it would have. So it's a long-term project. Football's not easy. There are no short-term fixes. You can make changes and amendments quickly, but what results they bring can sometimes take longer. So it still remains to be seen where Chelsea go, and good luck to them. They're one of our big competitors, obviously, in the Premier League, but we like to have good relationships with all clubs. There's a relatively small number of clubs across the world that we will do business with, either buying or selling. It's important to have good relationships with as many as possible.
People from the outside in will be saying Todd Boehly's playing football manager, which seems a bit harsh, and they obviously don't know the strategy behind it. But you've negotiated with him and Chelsea, and from previous comments made, you referred to him as quite a tough negotiator. So is it fair to say that Todd Boehly is being misrepresented in the media, and Chelsea actually are playing much harder ball than people realise?
Todd's a very successful businessman. You don't get to be a very successful businessman unless you're a smart person, and I've got no doubt at all that Todd's a very smart person, and obviously evidence is that he's a very successful businessman. So he certainly is not a pushover in negotiations, far from it. And he's a very professional individual. He's got high integrity. And we've enjoyed the dealings we've had with Todd, and we wish him nothing but good wishes, and we know how difficult this business is, and it's not easy to come in from the other side of the world, buy a football club which is already successful, make it more successful, and that doesn't happen overnight. It requires a lot of skill, a lot of patience, a lot of good hard work, but also a bit of luck along the way as well.
He's from America and affiliated also to a US franchise in the Dodgers. You worked in America too. What learnings from that role have you brought to the Premier League, and how do you think Brighton or the Premier League more generally can be influenced by US sport?
Well, I really enjoyed my time in North America, and I think one of the big things that I learned there is that the sport is important, but the entertainment around the sport, the whole match day is really important, and the opportunity for people to arrive early, stay late, spend quite a bit of money while they're at the game, mixing with friends, with family, and just the whole holistic entertainment value of a sporting day out, I think is something that I brought back from North America with me. In England, football tends to be very much about the game, the 90 minutes. Some fans will arrive just before kickoff and leave immediately on the final whistle. In North America, that's not quite the way it works. But, blending those two things, blending the passion that fans have in England for their football and how important the result is to them, with creating an experience around the game that they also enjoy and therefore feel part of, and therefore are willing and happy to spend money on, is a big learning for me from North America. And combining those two things is what I've tried to do almost every minute that I've been back from working on that side of the pond.
And just finally, in 30 seconds, expectations for the season for Brighton.
We would love to be able to continue the progress we've made. We'd love another top 10 finish. We've got a big cup game tomorrow. We'd love to progress further in the FA Cup. So a lot of work still to do and a long way to go.
Paul, many congratulations on your OBE. Happy New Year again, and good luck for the second half of the season.
Thank you. Happy New Year to you as well.